The entire bar went silent the moment she kissed him. Not the comfortable kind of silence that settles over a crowd during a touching moment. This was the kind that tasted like metal and fear, the kind that made grown men shift their weight and check the exits. Amara felt it press against her skin as she pulled away from lips that hadn't moved, hadn't responded, hadn't done anything except remain perfectly still against hers. His eyes opened slowly. Dark, empty of everything except a question she couldn't answer. "You don't know what you've just done," he said, voice low enough that only she could hear it, and something in her chest turned cold. "But we're getting ahead of ourselves." 3 hours earlier, Amara had been sitting in her apartment, staring at the dress her best friend Maya had thrown on her bed. Black, tight. Everything Amara Chen normally wasn't. "I'm not wearing that," she'd said, pushing her glasses up her nose. Maya planted her hands on her hips. "You've worn cardigans to the last 4 girls' nights. Tonight you're wearing the dress. Tonight you're drinking something that isn't tea. Tonight you're proving that Daniel was an idiot for calling you boring." The name still stung. 6 months since her ex had ended things, and Amara could still hear his exact words. "You're just so predictable. I need someone with more fire." Fire. As if being a responsible accountant who preferred reading to clubbing made her somehow deficient. As if stability was a character flaw. "Fine," Amara had said, grabbing the dress. "But I'm not doing anything crazy." Maya's grin should have been a warning. The bar was called Obsidian, and from the moment Amara stepped through the heavy doors, she knew it was a mistake. This wasn't the kind of place she belonged. The lighting was deliberately dim, casting everyone in shadows and amber. The clientele looked expensive, dangerous, like they'd all walked out of a crime thriller. Men in suits that cost more than her monthly rent. Women who moved like predators in heels sharp enough to draw blood. "This is way out of our league," Amara whispered to Maya as they found a table. "That's the point," Maya said, already flagging down a server. "We're invisible here. We can watch, drink, and for one night, pretend we're the kind of women who belong in places like this." Their other friends arrived. Jasmine, loud and fearless. Rachel, already tipsy from pre-gaming. They ordered cocktails with names Amara didn't recognize, and the liquid that arrived in her glass looked more dangerous than anything she'd ever consumed. "To Amara," Jasmine said, raising her glass. May she finally remember what fun feels like. They drank. The alcohol burned going down, but warmth spread through Amara's chest afterward, loosening something that had been wound tight for months. Maybe this was what she needed. One night of being someone else. The bar filled as the evening wore on. Music pulsed, though not loud enough to prevent conversation. Amara was on her 3rd drink, feeling pleasantly fuzzy, when Rachel leaned forward with that glint in her eye that always preceded trouble. "I have an idea," she said. "No," Amara said immediately. "You haven't even heard it yet." "I know that look. The answer is no." Maya laughed. "Come on, where's your sense of adventure?" "I left it at home with my good judgment," Amara replied. But she was smiling now, the alcohol making everything seem softer, easier. Jasmine gestured around the bar. "Okay, but seriously, look at these people. Don't you ever wonder what it would be like to just do something unexpected? Something completely out of character?" "Like what?" "Like," Rachel's eyes scanned the room, then stopped. Her expression changed, became more serious. "Like kissing a stranger." The other women followed her gaze, and Amara felt the mood at their table shift. There was a section of the bar they'd all been unconsciously avoiding. Not a VIP area exactly, but a space that seemed to have created its own gravity. Several men sat there, all in dark suits, all carrying themselves with the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. But it wasn't them that made Amara's breath catch. It was the man at the center. He sat with the stillness of a knife before it cuts. Dark hair pushed back from a face that could have been carved from stone. Sharp jaw, eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. He wasn't the largest man in the bar, but somehow he took up the most space. Even from across the room, Amara could feel the weight of his presence. No one approached that section. Even the servers seemed nervous delivering drinks. Him, Rachel breathed. That's the kind of man Daniel could never be. Are you insane? Maya hissed. Look at him. Look at the men around him. That's not a guy you just walk up to. Exactly, Jasmine said, warming to the idea. That's what makes it perfect. Amara needs to do something completely insane, something that proves she's not boring or predictable. I'm not kissing a stranger, Amara said, but her eyes hadn't left him. There was something magnetic about the way he held himself. Dangerous, controlled, like he knew exactly what kind of power he wielded and chose to keep it leashed. It's just a dare, Rachel urged. You walk over, you kiss him, you walk away. What's the worst that could happen? He could call security, or the police, or he won't. Maya had that look now too, the one that said she was fully committed to this terrible idea. Men like that? They're used to women throwing themselves at them. You kiss him, shock him a little, and leave. He probably won't even remember it tomorrow. The alcohol had done its job too well. Amara felt brave, reckless, like all the rules she'd followed her entire life were strings she could just cut. Daniel thought she was boring? Fine. She'd show him boring. One kiss, she said, and stood before she could change her mind. Her friends erupted in excited whispers behind her, but their voices faded as Amara crossed the bar. Each step felt surreal, like she was watching someone else walk toward the most dangerous-looking man she'd ever seen. The other patrons noticed. She felt their eyes tracking her movement, felt the exact moment the men in the dark corner realized where she was headed. They tensed. One of them started to rise, hand moving toward his jacket, but the man in the center raised one finger. Just one. The smallest gesture imaginable. Everyone froze. Amara stopped directly in front of him. Up close, he was even more devastating. Mid-30s, maybe. A face that gave nothing away. Eyes like deep water where things drowned. Can I help you? His voice matched everything else about him. Smooth, cold, absolutely controlled. This was her moment to apologize, to laugh it off, to return to her table and her normal, safe life. Instead, Amara leaned down and kissed him. His lips were softer than she expected. Warm. She'd meant it to be quick, just a brush of contact to fulfill the dare, but something made her linger. Maybe the alcohol. Maybe the desire to prove she could be unpredictable, dangerous, worth remembering. She pressed closer, let her lips part slightly, felt his breath hitch, and that's when the bar went silent. When Amara finally pulled back, his eyes were open, watching her. Not with anger or surprise, but with something far more unsettling. Interest. The kind that felt like a hook sliding beneath her ribs. You don't know what you've just done, he said quietly, and the words wrapped around her throat like a promise. Amara's bravery evaporated. She straightened, took a step back, and nearly stumbled in her heels. His hand shot out, catching her elbow with surprising gentleness. The touch lasted only a second before he released her, but she felt the brand of it even after he let go. She started, but no words came. What could she possibly say? Sorry for kissing you because of a dare? Sorry for interrupting your evening? Sorry for existing? Go back to your table, he said. Not unkindly, but with absolute authority. The kind of voice that expected obedience. Amara went. Her legs felt unsteady as she crossed the bar. The silence broke gradually, conversations resuming in careful whispers. By the time she reached her friends, her hands were shaking. Oh my God, Maya breathed. You actually did it. Did you see his face? Rachel was practically bouncing in her seat. He looked completely shocked. Are you okay? Jasmine asked, the only one who seemed to notice Amara's pallor. You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, Amara lied, downing the rest of her drink in one burning gulp. Can we go, please? What? No way, we just got here. Now! Amara grabbed her purse. She could still feel eyes on her back. His eyes. I need to leave. Now. Something in her voice must have convinced them, because Maya nodded and signaled for the check. They settled their bill quickly, and Amara didn't look back as they headed for the exit. She couldn't. If she looked back and saw him still watching her, she thought she might stop breathing entirely. The night air hit her like a slap. Cool. Real. She sucked it into her lungs and tried to remember how to think clearly. That was insane, Rachel said, laughing. Absolutely insane. Daniel would die if he could see you now. But Amara wasn't thinking about Daniel anymore. She was thinking about cold eyes and a voice that had promised consequences she didn't understand. She was thinking about the way every man in that corner had moved like soldiers, and the way one small gesture had frozen them all. Who was he? She didn't want to know. She was going home, going to bed, and tomorrow this would all feel like a dream born from too much alcohol and too much heartbreak. Except it didn't. Amara woke the next morning with a headache and a sense of creeping dread she couldn't shake. She went through her normal routine. Shower, coffee, the comfortable armor of slacks and a blazer. She was boring, predictable Amara again, and that should have felt safe. It didn't. At work, she buried herself in spreadsheets and quarterly reports. Numbers made sense. Numbers followed rules. By lunch, she'd almost convinced herself that last night had been exactly what Maya said, a moment of madness that meant nothing. Then she went to grab coffee. The cafe on the corner was her usual spot. She ordered her usual drink. The barista rang her up, and Amara reached for her wallet. It's been paid for, the barista said. Amara blinked. What? Your drink. Someone already covered it. The young woman looked uncomfortable. A man. He was here earlier, said to tell you. She checked a note beside the register. He said to tell you that you have good taste. The coffee cup felt too hot in Amara's hands. What did he look like? I don't know. Tall, dark suit. He didn't stay long. The barista was already turning to the next customer, uninterested in the minor mystery. Amara took her coffee and left, but she couldn't drink it. Someone had paid for her order. Someone who knew what she ordered. Someone who knew where she went for coffee. Coincidence, she told herself. Had to be. Except that night, when she left the office, there was a car parked across the street. Black. Expensive. Tinted windows. It sat there like a predator pretending to sleep, and Amara felt the weight of observation even though she couldn't see inside. She walked quickly to the subway station. The car didn't follow. But the next day, it was back. And the day after that. Amara told herself she was being paranoid. Told herself that one kiss couldn't possibly have consequences that followed her into daylight. But she started varying her routine. Different coffee shops. Different routes home. She stopped going out with her friends. Started double-checking her locks at night. A week passed. Then 2. The car disappeared, and Amara began to breathe easier. See? Nothing. Just her imagination running wild. She should have known better. It was a Thursday evening, unseasonably warm for autumn. Amara was leaving work late, most of her colleagues already gone. The building lobby was empty, except for the night security guard, who barely looked up as she passed. She pushed through the glass doors and nearly walked into him. He stood on the sidewalk like he'd been carved there. Same dark suit. Same perfect stillness. Up close, in the fading daylight, she could see details she'd missed in the bar. The exact line of his jaw. The way his hair fell just slightly over his forehead. The small scar above his left eyebrow. Hello, Amara, he said. She stopped breathing. How do you know my name? I know quite a bit about you. He said it matter-of-factly, without menace, which somehow made it worse. Amara Chen, 28. You work as a senior accountant at Morrison & Associates. You take the subway home. You have a standing order at the corner cafe, vanilla latte with an extra shot, no sugar. You call your mother every Sunday. You haven't dated anyone since your relationship ended 6 months ago. Horror crawled up Amara's spine. You've been following me. Protecting you, he corrected. There's a difference. I don't need protection. I need you to leave me alone. She tried to step around him, but he moved with her, not touching, but blocking her path. That's not possible, anymore. Why not? It was just a kiss. A stupid dare. It didn't mean anything. Something flickered in his eyes. It meant something to me. The words hung between them, and Amara realized with growing panic that this wasn't going to end with a simple conversation. This man, whoever he was, had decided something about her, about them, and he had the kind of power that turned decisions into reality. What do you want? She whispered. Right now? To make sure you get home safely. There's a car waiting. He gestured to a black sedan that had pulled up to the curb, the same one she'd seen watching her building. I'm not getting in a car with you. I don't even know your name. Kang Minho, he said, and you're right to be cautious. But you're going to get in the car anyway, because I'm going to explain something to you, and you need to hear it. And if I refuse? Then I'll follow you onto the subway and explain it there, in front of all those people. Would you prefer that? Amara looked around. The street was busy with evening commuters, but no one was paying attention to them. No one would help even if she screamed. And part of her, the part that had kissed a stranger on a dare, wanted to know what he had to say. Against every instinct, she got in the car. The interior smelled like leather and something else. Cedar, maybe. Expensive cologne. Minho slid in beside her, and the driver pulled away from the curb without being told where to go. Where are we going? Amara asked, hating how small her voice sounded. Just driving. You'll be home within the hour. He angled toward her slightly. I need you to understand something, Amara. The night you kissed me, you did it in front of certain people. People who notice things. People who wonder why someone would dare approach me. I didn't know. I know you didn't. That's the problem. His voice remained calm, controlled. You picked the wrong man for your game. So this is what? Punishment? No. He studied her with those dark, fathomless eyes. This is a complication. Amara's heart hammered against her ribs. What kind of complication? Minho was quiet for a moment, watching the city lights blur past the window. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight she hadn't heard before. Something almost like regret. I don't normally allow people close to me. It's safer that way, for them and for me. But you walked up to me in front of my associates, kissed me like you had every right to, and walked away. He turned to face her fully. Do you have any idea how that looked? Like a drunk girl doing something stupid? Like someone who belonged to me. The words fell between them like stones. Like someone under my protection, and now certain people believe that's exactly what you are. But I'm not. I don't even know you. That won't matter to them. His jaw tightened. My enemies don't ask questions, Amara. They see an opening, and they take it. The full horror of what he was saying finally sank in. You're saying I'm in danger because I kissed you? I'm saying you have my attention, which means you also have theirs. He pulled out his phone, tapped something, and held it up. The photo showed Amara leaving her apartment building that morning. The angle suggested it had been taken from across the street, zoomed in enough to capture her face clearly. This was sent to me yesterday, Minho said quietly, by someone who wants me to know they're watching, that they've identified a weakness. Amara felt sick. This is insane. I'm not your weakness. I'm nobody to you. You weren't. He pocketed the phone. But you are now. Then tell them the truth. Tell them it was just a random kiss, that I mean nothing. I could do that. Something in his expression shifted, softened, just barely. But I won't. The air in the car became too thick to breathe. Amara stared at him, trying to understand what she was hearing. Why not? Minho leaned back, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something other than perfect control in his face, something almost vulnerable. Because that kiss was the first genuine thing that's happened to me in 5 years, he said. Because you looked at me and saw a man, not a title or a threat. Because for 3 seconds I remembered what it felt like to be touched without fear or calculation. That's not my fault. No, it's mine. He exhaled slowly. I should have sent you away the moment you approached my table. I should have ignored you. Instead, I let you kiss me, and I've been thinking about it ever since. Amara's pulse was doing something complicated and dangerous. You've been stalking me because of a kiss? I've been protecting you because of what that kiss made you. A target. He held her gaze. And yes, because I can't seem to stop thinking about you. The way you looked when you walked toward me. The courage it took. The softness of your mouth. The fact that you did it on a dare, of all things. How did you... I have very good hearing. And your friends aren't as quiet as they think. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. It should have made me angry. Should have made me dismiss you as foolish. Instead, it made me curious. So what happens now? Amara asked. You just keep following me around? For now, yes. Until I'm certain the threat is past. The car slowed, and Amara realized they'd arrived at her building. My people will be nearby. You won't see them, but they'll be there. And if I go to the police? And tell them what? That a man is having you protected? Minho's expression was unreadable. They'd want to know why. And then I'd have to explain what I do, and you'd have to explain how you know me. Things would become... complicated. More complicated than being stalked by a stranger? Yes. He reached past her to open the door. Much more complicated. Trust me on this. Amara didn't move. What do you do? What are you that makes people afraid? Nothing you need to know about right now. That's not good enough. If I'm in danger because of you, I deserve to know why. Minho studied her for a long moment. I manage certain business interests. Import-export, primarily. Some people disagree with my methods. That's all you need to know. It was a lie, or at least not the whole truth. Amara could see it in the careful way he chose his words, the deliberate vagueness. But she was also smart enough to know that pushing wouldn't get her anywhere. Fine, she said and climbed out of the car. But this is temporary. Once your threat passes or whatever, you leave me alone. Agreed. She started toward her building, then turned back. Minho was still watching her from the open car door, and in the harsh fluorescent light of the street, he looked almost human. Almost. That kiss, she said. It really didn't mean anything. I want you to know that. I know, he replied. That's what made it perfect. Amara fled inside before she could ask what he meant. The next few days passed in a haze of paranoia and hyper-awareness. Amara saw Minho's people everywhere. The man reading a newspaper at the coffee shop who never turned the page. The woman in the car that was always parked near her office. They were good, but once she knew to look, she could spot them. Minho himself didn't appear again, and she told herself she was relieved. She wasn't. Some traitorous part of her kept watching for him, kept remembering the way he'd looked at her in the car. Like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Like she mattered. It was insane. He was dangerous, clearly involved in something illegal, and had inserted himself into her life without permission. She should hate him. She didn't. Maya noticed the change. You've been weird since that night at Obsidian. Did something happen? Besides the kiss, I mean? No, Amara lied. I've just been stressed with work. But work was the only place she felt normal anymore. The only place where she could pretend her life hadn't been turned upside down by one impulsive decision. Until the day she overheard the conversation. Amara was in the break room, making tea, when two of the partners walked past. They didn't see her behind the open cabinet door, didn't lower their voices. "Did you see the news? Another warehouse fire in the Port District? Third one this month? Police are calling it gang-related, rival organizations fighting for territory. My brother-in-law works in customs. He says it's the Korean syndicates. They've been moving product through the port for years, but lately there's been infighting. Someone's trying to take over. The Kang family? Among others. Nasty business. My brother-in-law says the violence is escalating. Just last week, someone's car was firebombed. These people don't play games." They moved on, leaving Amara frozen with her teabag halfway to her mug. Kang. Minho's last name was Kang. Korean syndicates. Violence. Territory disputes. She thought about the way men had moved around him at the bar like soldiers. The way one gesture had frozen them. The careful way he'd explained his business interests. Oh God, Minho wasn't just dangerous. He was part of organized crime, the mafia, and she'd kissed him in front of witnesses, marked herself as connected to him in the eyes of people who killed over territory disputes and warehouse fires. Amara's hands started shaking. The teabag fell into the sink. She had to end this, had to make it clear she wanted nothing to do with him or his world. She'd go to him, wherever he was, and demand he remove his protection and leave her alone. Except she didn't know how to find him. The universe apparently had a sense of humor about timing. Amara left work early, claiming illness that wasn't entirely feigned. She felt sick with fear and growing understanding. She needed to go home, needed to think, needed to figure out how to extract herself from a situation that was spiraling beyond her control. The black car was waiting at the curb, but this time it wasn't empty. Minho stood beside it, and even from 20 feet away, Amara could see something was different. His usual control looked frayed around the edges. His suit jacket was missing, his tie was loosened, and there was something in his expression that made her stop walking. "We need to talk," he said as she approached. "Now." "I know who you are," Amara blurted out. "What you are? I heard people at work talking about the warehouse fires, about the Korean syndicates, about the Kang family. Get in the car." "No, not until you tell me the truth. Are you part of the mafia?" Minho's jaw clenched. That's an oversimplification. But yes. The confirmation, even though she'd expected it, hit like a physical blow. "You're a criminal." "I'm a businessman who operates outside certain legal frameworks." "You hurt people." "I protect my interests. Sometimes that requires force." He stepped closer, and despite everything, Amara didn't move back. "But I've never hurt anyone who didn't present a threat first." "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No, it's supposed to make you understand that I have rules. Lines I don't cross." His eyes were intense, and one of those lines is you. "I don't want to be a line," Amara said, hating how her voice shook. "I don't want any of this. I want you to tell whoever is watching that I'm nobody, that I mean nothing, and I want my life back." "It's too late for that." Minho ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect style. The gesture made him look younger, more human. Something happened today. A development that changes things. Fear spiked through her. What kind of development? "Get in the car, Amara, please." The please caught her off guard. He didn't seem like a man who said that word often. "I'll explain everything, but not here. Not in the open." Maybe it was the exhaustion in his voice. Maybe it was the fear beneath her anger. Maybe it was the stupid, reckless part of her that had kissed him in the first place. Whatever the reason, Amara got in the car. This time, they didn't just drive. The car took them across the city, through neighborhoods that got progressively more upscale, until they pulled into the underground garage of a building that screamed wealth and exclusivity. "Where are we?" Amara asked as Minho led her to a private elevator. "Somewhere safe." He pressed his palm to a scanner, and the elevator doors opened. "My home." The penthouse was exactly what she expected, and nothing like it at the same time. Yes, it was massive and modern, all glass and steel and city views that made her dizzy, but it was also lived in. Books on the shelves, a coffee mug on the counter, a jacket thrown over a chair. Signs of an actual person, not just a dangerous criminal. "Drink?" Minho asked, heading to a bar cart. "Answers," Amara countered. "You said something happened." He poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey and downed it in one swallow. "This afternoon, one of my shipments was intercepted. Not by police, by a rival group. They took the cargo and left a message." "What kind of message?" "The kind written in blood." He turned to face her. "They want to negotiate. They want me to meet with their leader, discuss territory and terms. It's a power play. What does this have to do with me?" Minho's expression darkened. "They included a photo with their message. You, leaving your office building, with a note that said they look forward to meeting the woman who caught my attention." The room tilted. Amara grabbed the back of a chair for support. "They're going to come after me. They're going to try." He set down his glass with controlled precision. "Which is why you can't go home tonight, or tomorrow. You need to stay here, under my protection, until I handle this." "Handle this how?" "That's not something you need to worry about." "The hell it isn't!" Amara's fear transformed into fury. "You don't get to decide what I need to worry about. This is my life, my safety. If people are threatening me because of you, I deserve to know what you're going to do about it." "I'm going to end the threat." His voice went cold, flat. "Permanently." "You mean kill them?" "If necessary." The casual way he said it made her stomach turn. "And that doesn't bother you? Taking lives?" "Not when those lives are trying to take something from me." Minho moved closer, and Amara found herself backed against the window. The city glittered behind her, thousands of lights representing thousands of people living normal lives. Lives she'd never get back to. "You think I enjoy this? You think I wanted you tangled up in my world? Then let me go. Just tell them I'm nothing. You think I haven't tried?" His control finally cracked, voice rising. "You think I didn't spend the last 2 weeks trying to convince myself to walk away? But every time I try, I see that photo they sent. I imagine what they'd do to you to get to me. And I can't." He braced his hands on either side of her, caging her in without touching her. "I can't let you go. Not when it means putting you in danger." "You're the danger," Amara whispered, but she couldn't look away from his eyes. "Everything about you is dangerous." "I know." His voice dropped, became almost tender. "But I'm also the only thing standing between you and people who are worse." They stood like that, breathing the same air, close enough that Amara could see the pulse beating in his throat. Close enough that if she leaned forward just slightly, she could kiss him again. And God help her. She wanted to. Wanted to taste the whiskey on his lips. Wanted to see if he'd kiss her back this time. Wanted to fall into the heat she could feel radiating off him. Instead, she pressed her palms against his chest and pushed. "I need space. I need to think." Minho stepped back immediately. "Guest room is down the hall. Second door on the left. Everything you need should be there. If it's not, ask." "How long do I have to stay? Here?" "I don't know. A few days. Maybe a week. I have work. I have a life. Call in sick. Make excuses. I'll handle any financial issues." He picked up his phone. "What you can't do is leave this building until I know you're safe." "So I'm a prisoner. You're protected." He met her gaze. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Amara asked quietly. "Because from where I'm standing, they both feel like cages." She left before he could answer, found the guest room, and locked the door. The room was beautiful, luxurious. Everything she could possibly need was there, just as he'd promised. Clean clothes in her size, toiletries. even her preferred brand of tea. The level of detail should have comforted her. Instead, it terrified her, because it meant he'd been paying attention, meant he'd been watching longer than she'd realized, meant that somewhere along the way, she'd stopped being a random woman who'd kissed him and became something else entirely. Amara didn't sleep that night. She lay in the too-soft bed and listened to the city sounds filtering through the windows. Somewhere in the penthouse, she could hear movement. Minho pacing, maybe, or working, planning whatever he planned to do to keep her safe. Morning came with weak sunlight and a knock on her door. "Breakfast," Minho called. "And coffee. Real coffee. Not whatever brown water you've been drinking at that cafe." Despite everything, Amara's stomach growled. She opened the door to find him holding a tray. He'd changed clothes, showered, looked every inch the controlled businessman again. Only the shadows under his eyes betrayed his sleepless night. "I'm not hungry," she lied. "Eat anyway. You'll need your strength." He set the tray on the dresser. "I have a meeting this afternoon. With them. My people will be here, but you stay in the penthouse. Don't answer the door for anyone except me." "What if you don't come back?" Something flickered in his expression. "Then my second in command will come for you. His name is Park J. He'll make sure you're safe, get you far away from the city if necessary. I don't want someone else's protection. I don't want any of this." Amara's eyes burned. "I just want to go back to before I met you." "I know." Minho moved toward the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I wish you could. You deserve better than being pulled into this world. Then why won't you let me go?" He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time she saw something raw and unguarded in his face. "Because I'm a selfish bastard who can't stand the thought of anyone else touching what's mine." "I'm not yours. Not yet," he agreed. "But you will be." He left before she could respond, and Amara heard the front door close with terrifying finality. She was alone in a penthouse. That felt more like a gilded cage with every passing second, waiting for a dangerous man to return from a meeting that might get him killed. She should have been hoping he wouldn't come back. Should have been planning her escape the moment he left. Instead, she found herself watching the clock and praying he'd walk through that door again. Hours crawled by. Amara tried to eat but couldn't. Tried to watch television but couldn't focus. She found herself at the window, staring down at the city, wondering which building housed the meeting that would determine her fate. The sun was setting when she heard it. Not the front door. Something else. A crash from somewhere in the penthouse. Shouting. The sound of something breaking. Amara's heart stopped. She ran to her door, pressing her ear against it. "Don't care what orders you have," a voice was saying. Male. Rough. Not Minho. "The boss wants her brought in. You can come along, or we can go through you." "You're not touching her." That voice she recognized. Park J, maybe. Minho's second. "I don't care how many of you there are." "Then I guess we're doing this the hard way." The sound of a fight erupted, bodies hitting furniture, glass shattering, a gunshot that made Amara jump back from the door. Then silence. Footsteps approached her room, slow, deliberate. Amara looked around frantically for a weapon, anything, and grabbed a heavy lamp. The doorknob turned. Locked, thank God. But then someone kicked the door, once, twice, and the lock gave way with a crack of splintering wood. 3 men entered. None of them were Minho. "Hello, sweetheart," the leader said, smiling like a shark. "We're going to take a little trip. You can come quietly, or we can make this difficult. Your choice." Amara raised the lamp. "Get away from me." "Difficult it is." He moved fast, too fast. The lamp connected with his shoulders, but didn't stop him. Strong, hands grabbed her, and Amara screamed. She fought, kicking and clawing. but there were too many of them. Something pressed against her face. Cloth, smelling chemical and wrong, and the world started to blur. Her last conscious thought was of Minho, and whether he'd keep his promise to protect her. When Amara woke, everything hurt. Her head pounded, her wrists ached where rope bit into them. She was sitting in a chair in what looked like an abandoned warehouse, the kind of place where terrible things happened in movies. "Finally awake," someone said. "Good. It's no fun when they're unconscious." The man from the penthouse stepped into her line of sight. Behind him, she could see more men. Guards, probably. All armed. "Where's Minho?" Amara asked, pleased that her voice didn't shake. "Oh, he'll be here soon. We sent him an invitation. Picture of you, address, request for negotiation." The man crouched in front of her. "See, the thing about Kang, Minho, is he doesn't negotiate. Never has. Too proud. Too powerful. But for you, we're betting he'll make an exception. He won't. I'm nobody to him. That's not what our intel says. That's not what every one of his actions for the past 3 weeks says." The man touched her face, and Amara jerked away. "Don't worry. We're not going to hurt you. Not unless he refuses our terms." "What terms?" "Territory, product, power. The usual." He straightened. "We take half his operations. He keeps you alive. Simple trade." "He won't do it," Amara said, but she wasn't certain. Wasn't certain of anything anymore, except that she was terrified, and this was all her fault for kissing a stranger on a stupid dare. Time became meaningless. Amara sat in that chair, hands bound, surrounded by armed men, and waited. For rescue or death or whatever came next. And then she heard it. Gunfire. Outside the warehouse. Getting closer. The men around. Her tensed, weapons raised. Their leader barked orders, positioning his people at exits and windows. The warehouse door exploded inward with a boom that shook the building. Smoke poured through, and through it came Minho. He looked like violence incarnate. Blood on his shirt. Gun in his hand. Eyes absolutely cold. Men poured in behind him, his people, moving with military precision. "Let her go," Minho said, voice carrying across the warehouse. "Now." The leader laughed, pressing a gun to Amara's temple. "Or what? You'll kill all of us? You're outnumbered, Kang." "Am I?" Minho tilted his head slightly. "Count again." Red laser sights appeared on every hostile body in the warehouse. Snipers, Amara realized, positioned outside in the windows, on the catwalks above, at least a dozen of them. The leader's confidence faltered. "You'd risk her life?" "No." Minho's eyes found Amara's across the space. "But I'll risk yours, and theirs, and everyone you've ever cared about if you don't take that gun away from her head in the next 3 seconds. You can't. 1. The warehouse went silent except for Amara's ragged breathing. 2. The leader looked around, seeing his men's fear, seeing the laser sights painting them all for death. 3. "Wait." The gun lowered. "Wait. Okay, let's talk about this." No talking. Minho advanced slowly. "You took something that belongs to me. There are consequences for that. She's just a woman. She's my woman." The words rang out with absolute authority. "And you put your hands on her. You pointed a gun at her head. You made her afraid." Each statement was punctuated by another step forward. "Did you really think I'd negotiate after that?" "You're a businessman. Businessmen negotiate. I'm a businessman when it benefits me." Minho stopped 10 feet away. "Right now, it benefits me. To make an example. To show everyone who might think about touching what's mine exactly what happens when they cross that line." "Please," the leader said, and now he was the one who sounded afraid. "We didn't hurt her. We were just trying to get your attention. You have it." Minho raised his gun. "Congratulations." "Wait. Don't." The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Amara squeezed her eyes shut, but she couldn't block out the sound of the body hitting the floor, or the sounds that followed as Minho's men moved through the warehouse with brutal efficiency. Then gentle hands were on her wrists, cutting the ropes. Minho's voice, softer than she'd ever heard it. "It's over. You're safe. I've got you." Amara opened her eyes. He was kneeling in front of her, blood splattered and dangerous, and looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "Are you hurt?" he asked, hands running over her, arms checking for injuries. "No. Scared, but not hurt." "Good." He pulled her to her feet, kept her turned away from the bodies. "Let's get you out of here." The ride back to the penthouse was silent. Amara sat pressed against the car door, as far from Minho as she could get. She could still smell the gunpowder on him, still see the blood. He'd killed a man. Multiple men. For her. Back at the penthouse, Minho headed straight for the bar and poured himself a drink. His hands were steady, but Amara noticed the blood on his cuffs. Evidence of what he'd done. What he was capable of. "Say something," he finally said. "What do you want me to say?" Amara's voice came out hollow. "Thank you for murdering people on my behalf? They would have killed you. Because of you, because I kissed you." She was shaking now, adrenaline and fear and delayed shock crashing through her. "I did one stupid thing, and now people are dead, and I'm tangled. Up with a killer, and I can't. Minho crossed to her in 2 strides and pulled her against his chest. She fought him for a moment, then collapsed, sobbing into his blood-stained shirt. "I'm sorry," he murmured into her hair. "I'm sorry you saw that. Sorry you were afraid. Sorry I couldn't protect you better." "You're sorry?" Amara pulled back to stare at him. "You just killed people and you're apologizing for not protecting me better?" "Yes." His eyes were raw, honest. "Those men don't matter. They chose this life, chose to threaten you. But you didn't choose any of this. You deserve better than being traumatized because I couldn't keep you safe. You're insane. Probably." He cupped her face with surprising gentleness. "But I'm also the man who will burn the world down to keep you safe. And I need you to decide if you can live with that." "What?" "This is your choice, Amara. The only one I can give you." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "You can walk away. I'll set you up somewhere far from here. Give you a new identity if necessary. Make sure you're financially stable. You'll never have to see me again. Or you stay. You accept what I am, what my life involves. The danger, the violence, the world I live in. And I promise you'll never be unprotected again. Never be afraid again. Because I will end anyone who tries to hurt you." Amara's mind reeled. A few weeks ago, her biggest problem was being called boring by an ex-boyfriend. Now she was being offered a choice between running from a mafia boss or staying with him. "That's not a real choice," she whispered. "It's the only one I have to offer." Minho's expression was bleak. "I told you I'm selfish. I should send you away. Should make you go for your own good. But I can't. I can't let you go, Amara. So I'm giving you the choice I can't make. And if I choose to leave?" Pain flashed across his face. "Then I'll let you go. I'll hate every second of it, but I'll do it. Because you deserve to choose your own life. Even though you said I belonged to you? You do." His voice was rough. "You belong to me the same way I belong to you. Completely. Absolutely. In a way that terrifies me, because I've never belonged to anyone before." His forehead touched hers. "But belonging doesn't mean owning. It means I'm yours to keep or throw away. Your choice." Amara closed her eyes. She should choose freedom. Should choose safety and normalcy, and a life where people didn't get killed because of her. Should choose everything that made sense. But when she opened her eyes and looked at Minho, at this dangerous, violent, obsessive man who'd killed for her and would do it again without hesitation, she realized something terrifying. She didn't want to leave. "I must be as insane as you are," she said slowly, "because I should be running, should be terrified of you. But you're not." It wasn't a question. "I am terrified of you, of what you do, what you're capable of." She took a shaky breath. "But I'm more terrified of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what if." Minho's eyes darkened with something fierce and possessive. "Say it clearly. I need to hear you say it." "I'm staying." The words came out stronger than she felt. "I choose you. Your world, your darkness, all of it. You're sure? Because once you're mine, really mine, I won't let you go. Ever." "I'm sure." And somehow, impossibly, she was. Minho kissed her then, and it was nothing like that first kiss in the bar. This was claiming, consuming, a promise and a threat wrapped in heat. Amara kissed him back with equal intensity, pouring weeks of fear and want and confusion into the contact. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Minho rested his forehead against hers. "You're mine now," he said. "And you're mine," Amara replied, surprised by her own certainty. "Which means no more secrets, no more protection from the truth. If I'm choosing this life, I need to know everything." "Everything," he agreed. "Starting tomorrow. Tonight, I just need to hold you and remember you're safe." He led her to his room, not the guest room, his, and they lay down fully clothed. Minho wrapped himself around her like he could shield her from the world through sheer will, and maybe he could. Maybe that's what choosing him meant. Amara should have been horrified by everything that had happened, by the violence, the death, the casual way Minho wielded power. And part of her was. But a larger part recognized something she'd been denying since that first kiss. She'd never felt more alive than she did in his arms. "I kissed a stranger for a dare," she whispered into the darkness. "And," Minho's voice rumbled against her back, "and ended up choosing a king." His arms tightened around her. "My queen," he corrected softly. "Because that's what you are now, what you'll always be. The only person in this world who can bring me to my knees." Amara smiled despite everything, despite the fear and the blood and the impossible choice she'd just made. Because somewhere between that first kiss and this moment, she'd stopped being boring, predictable Amara Chen. She'd become the woman who belonged to the most dangerous man in the city, and she wouldn't have it any other way. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments what other romance tropes you'd like me to explore. Drop a like if you want to see more dark romance content like this. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most dangerous choice is the one that sets you free.